and hand you over to Bruce. All yours, Bruce. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for coming. I've put this presentation together, a little bit of background on myself. I've been involved in the digital media industry here in Australia for close to 25 years, and I've seen its full evolution. We're at the cusp of another evolution away from the flat screens to what is more of an immersive digital environment. And for the last couple of years, I've been exploring the different technologies involved and the different business applications. So I put this presentation together more for a high-level introduction to the ideas and concepts associated with immersive technology and explain what it is and some of the major applications. So I'll just switch off my video now so I don't distract myself, and I'll stop in different sections through the presentation and give you a small chance to ask a couple of questions, and then we'll move on to the next section because they're quite complex and different areas because I'm covering the full operational process of a business and how you might apply the technology. Yeah. Okay, so to simplify it, immersive technology is really trying to present information in context that improves the communication outcomes. So taking away all the technology and headsets and terminology, we're really just trying to improve how we deliver information to people. And that can be improving the way sales information is delivered, how training information is delivered, how logistical information is delivered, how product design information is delivered. And the main thing is delivering it in context of what you're doing. We've spent the last 50 or so years using flat screen technology, and even we go back 500 years to the printing press, flat screen or flat paper technology where information was transferred in a very flat environment. But we live in a virtual 360-degree environment, in a 3D environment, and the technology is now evolving to present information in that environment that makes more sense to us as human beings. And so we're able to more effectively communicate a message or instructions in this sort of format. So today we'll go through how that's achieved. As the market's evolving, there's different terminologies that you might hear. I've got an umbrella term, immersive technology, which is fairly common, which is one overarching technology. You then can break that down into three main areas of virtual reality, where we've got a completely simulated environment wearing a virtual reality headset, which you may have seen people wearing. You've got augmented reality, which is really using a tablet or a mobile phone or something similar, where you're holding it up in front of you and you're looking through that like a window to the environment behind you, seeing the world behind you through the camera, but overlaying that is additional information such as 3D models or instructions that that appear on your screen. And then we go to mixed reality, which is really a combination of the both, which is a headset that you would wear that leaves your hands free, that also applies, overlays additional information, but you can see the world around you. And another terminology for this you might hear, which is extended reality or XR. Now, some of the use cases for this technology, it is pervasive throughout the whole of a business now. So we're going to look at things like workplace collaboration, prototype visualization, assembling your products, the logistics of how those products are distributed, providing assistance to customers, the actual sales and marketing process, learning and development of staff, and the health and wellness of the staff. All of these functions within a business are able to utilise immersive technologies to improve outcomes of the business. So I've got a video here to watch. This is an introduction. I've got a couple of videos. This one's about a collaborative workspace. you're actually inside the space. You may have seen kids playing video games. So it uses the same sort of technology video games are built from, but you're actually in the space talking to people that in remote locations. So you build a virtual office space and you meet in that space as in the same way that kids meet and they're playing their video games, but this is a workspace instead. And this is a short video to give you an idea of how they appear.
We all experience the world in unique ways. Through our senses, we gather information and build cognitive process to understand concepts. This is how we learn. But what if we could push these boundaries past our physical world? What if you could communicate with anyone in the world, yet feel like you were in the same room? If you could meet and learn.
Why would you make me put it up the highest?
From teammates globally, sharing media and ideas.
So the good news.
Or jump into a simulated training.
But the real test is being able to do the right thing in a stressful situation.
To gain a deeper understanding of the task at hand.
And just squeezing the trigger to squeeze the bar. You have ventilated the baby, and now it's time to reassess.
Please fasten your seatbelt, sir.
Creating real-world scenarios, improving employee knowledge and skills.
Exactly, planted another tree. And this time we put it up the top.
Imagine if quality education was accessible to all, regardless of geographical location.
Large hazard and increase the risk to these big cities.
What if no field trip is too far or impossible? A world of immersive experiences. Engage, communicate, teach, learn.
Okay, that was one example. I'll just show another example. Engage came out of the education sector, and they've for workplace training, surgical training, and that sort of thing. Whereas this Vive Sync has come out of a product development environment. Similar sort of thing, but another company. There's about 70 or so companies that I found providing these sorts of platforms now. Okay, so they're an example of two collaborative work environments. What's interesting about those two environments, you upload a photo of yourself and it renders your face on an avatar. The interesting thing is I look a lot younger and I'm a lot fitter in these virtual reality environments, which is quite good, but unfortunately I don't think people have recognised me in real life. And some of these platforms are starting to provide options to put a bit more weight on it, a little bit more age. Does anyone have any sort of questions about that concept of being able to meet in a virtual space I went to an event only last week, which was the launch of some software that had 300 attendees in China at a physical location, and they ran this that Engage space, an event where another 200 people from around the world attended the event in the virtual space, watching the same presentation and hearing people, hearing the speakers talk and being able to ask questions. So it's a very, you know, for me to be able to sit in my room and attend an event in Tokyo or San Francisco, and then go back and do what I need to do, the efficiencies, the cost savings, and just the ability for me to extend my knowledge about what's happening in my industry is incredibly powerful. Anyone would like to ask a question there? Because I've got quite a few other slides. I'll have questions at the end as well. So I'll keep moving unless anyone wants to ask anything particular. No, okay. All right, so this is an example of product visualization. So we saw in the previous example, we were meeting in a workspace. This is actually bringing a 3D product in the design phase and modifying that design in virtual reality. And this is the McLaren automotive example.
McLaren is all about using cutting-edge technology alongside craftsmanship. Those two values are the absolute key to what we do in the design studio. I introduced VR into the business about a couple of years ago now, but the real missing link for us was a design tool. It's something that didn't exist, and it's something that I could see a real opportunity for. So one of the key features of the tool was to be able to import engineering hardpoints. Millimeters do matter, and it's all about contributing to that perfect proportion of a volume model. You could literally then bring in an engine, bring in radiator positions, vision lines and so on, and you could then start to sketch over the top of it.
The McLaren design team came to us with this problem to solve. How do we get the idea into 3D quickest from the designer's mind? What we've managed to achieve with Vector Suite is you've got 2D happening at the same time as 3D. We can pop back and forth within the application to 2D to make a center line that's perfectly accurate, but then we can also pop back into 3D and sketch freely, turning that process, which was traditionally quite drawn out, into something much more concise.
As a designer, you are thinking, how does it translate? But now, because we've accelerated that process, you're sketching straight into 3D, so it's much quicker, far more efficient. It still takes the craftsmanship of the drawn line. You can capture that subtlety of line, but then you can tweak it and perfect it and really tune that volume, because for us, proportion is king.
This tool is giving us the ability to design cars in VR, so it was properly game-changing for us.
When you take a step back and see what a designer can do with a tool like this, it really feels like we're on the cusp of something truly significant for the future of 3D design, which is really exciting.
Okay, so that's an example of one company's application in the automotive, and that's one of the sectors that is using 3D visualization as part of their design. I've got a colleague who designs the Ford Raptor ute here in Melbourne for the world using this methodology, and the speed at which it's accelerated their design capability is quite dramatic, and they're leading the way here in Melbourne with how that process happens, and he's getting lots of engagement from Ford design houses all around the world, from being based here in Melbourne, leading the way in using 3D visualization in virtual reality to design the Ford products. A few other industries are adapting this sort of visualization of their product design ahead of a lot of other industries. Certainly architecture is a leading area. Engineering, manufacturing and construction certainly see significant benefits. This is just a report from Forrester Research with a survey of these industry leaders who are using this technology and what they, some of the benefits they got out of it. So 19% of firms in these industries were already using this 3D visualization methods. 94% of those firms have adopted, who had adopted it, plan to expand it. And with 97% of them feeling like it's revolutioning their workflows and their processes. On this slide, we can just see a few of the main applications of the 3D visualization that these different industry sectors are using it for. So really, in the architecture, experiencing the space during the design program. Some of the other areas, I'm aware of Melbourne Water, for example, are now requiring, when they're designing a new large-scale building, they have to provide the 3D visualizations of all of the piping, and they actually meet the designers in virtual reality, and they're picking up many more faults and errors that don't appear really in the 2D or the flat screen type of environment. So the next step that we'll look at here is using mixed reality. And this is an example of how once you've actually designed the product, you're able then to assemble that product a lot more efficiently using the mixed reality, which is using the headsets to convey additional information at the point of manufacture.
Some people have the impression that wire harnesses are an easy build. They're not. There are literally thousands and thousands of wire, typically in a manned craft or a commercial airliner. We look for the big changers. Wearables, as an example, is what we would call a step function change, meaning that rather than picking up seconds or minutes that we do go after, a step function change with the wearables conceivably gives us an opportunity to literally cut the build time by 25%.
We have anywhere from 3 wires, 4 wires to 100 wires to go into one connector. So every little bit of technology really does help. Once you put them on, you'll say skylight, it'll show you on the diagram, and then you'll take the wire and you'll just pop it in, fast as heck.
You know, there's video streaming. If you have an issue, they can see it from their laptop or wherever because you're streaming it through your glasses. Then you can store it. Anytime you pull up that assembly, they could actually watch the video and say, okay, I need to build it like this. This is what the final product should look like.
Okay, Skylight, local search 186A.
The harness that you're building gives the pilot visibility at night. The harness that you're building gives him safety visibility if something should go bad.
You know, you always want to have first-time quality. With the wearable, you always know where that wire is going to go.
Okay, so that's an example of how the mixed reality works with the Google Glass headset, where it's overlaying some information on the glasses that people are wearing, and they can watch both a video or an instructional diagram and bring that information up as they're actually doing the job. This is another example of the difference between the old method of someone assembling an item using written instructions versus having the mixed reality headset on. So in that example we saw there through the glasses, what he was seeing was the models of the different components they had to assemble in the real time of what they needed to do, rather than going backwards and forwards between some written instructions and then the visually what they're looking at. And that's really coming down, showing the power of that contextual information at the time you needed it, being more effective at completing the task. And then so we've gone from the construction phase now to the distribution and the logistics of the dispatch and warehousing of products. Again, this is an example using the Google Glass mixed reality headset.
We are now at the Samsung warehouse focused on European supply of spare parts. We call this warehouse a creativity lab simply because we test and implement a lot of creative and innovative ideas. We wanted to make a next step in productivity and quality, and with this smart device solutions we have now been able to make that step. In 2015 we started a pilot with 5 devices, and now we are fully operational with 30 devices in this warehouse. 30 devices of the Google Smart Glass and the Samsung smartwatch.
After logging into XPick software, the picker scans the first and last barcode of the TO labels. The software will now show which aisle, which shelf, and which bin to pick from. After packing the product, the software will guide the picker to the next picking location. With the XPick system, it is also very easy to send messages and updates to the pickers. These show up on the smart device as a notification.
During the pilot, we noticed that the visualization of information is much more convenient than the standard way of picking and packing. Also, we noticed that it's easy to use. You just put on your device and you start. After we have worked for a year and a half with all these devices, we've noticed we have a 12% increase in productivity in the slow-moving item area and a 22% increase in the fast-moving item area. Besides that, we also had a 10% quality increase, which means 10% less errors in this warehouse. Samsung teamed up with Ubimax and Google to make this a success. Now we even have the devices connected to our Samsung Cello WMS system to make it easier to implement in other locations worldwide.
Okay, so what we've seen there is those last couple of videos were using the mixed reality, which is the headset. Now, as you can see there, the application of those are more effective in the areas of where you need 2 hands free. The next few videos we'll look at some augmented reality technology. Again, a lot more accessible because it's using devices people already have, people's smartphones and their tablets as the information to deliver the information, and which makes it a lot more cost effective for small businesses that are just starting out with the technology. Okay, so this is providing remote assistance. So this enables someone with less skills to go out into the field and deliver a high quality of service to a customer, such as a maintenance worker servicing a ducted heating system, or in the B2B area, trying to get some instructions from a client, for example, where the expert's actually not there, but can provide information. So we'll have a look at that.
This is Vuforia Chalk. Easy to use, powerful remote assistance that allows your workforce to collaborate in real time from anywhere. The Vuforia Chalk app lets your employees share a live view of their workspace with an expert or coworker.
And then you want to open either one of these 2 motor meters here.
Both people can draw on the screen with their finger to provide instructions as if they're right there with one another. With Vuforia Augmented Reality, your annotations stick exactly where they're drawn, even when you move around. In fact, you can pause the live view to draw easy-to-follow, multi-step instructions.
Looks good from here. Hit me back if you have any other issues. I'll be here to help, okay?
Okay, definitely. Thanks so much.
And that's how you use Chalk. It's that easy. Vuforia Chalk. See it. Solve it. Together.
So one of the main benefits of that, along with providing accurate and expert information at the point that it's required, that may not be possible with a junior staff member that doesn't have the knowledge, they're also being trained at the same time. So when you've got someone experienced back in the office being able to communicate via the screen in context of which the service is being provided on site, that person that's receiving that information is learning at the same time. So it's a great learning tool for junior staff as well. The next one, we go on to a similar type of technology, but it uses the combination of having the ability to access an expert who is in another location, but there's some augmented or additional information provided on how to, say, service some equipment in an off-site location that's already built into the program. Okay, so that example is showing the way you can combine those two things, the connection with the expert to provide oversight, but also some pre-designed instructions to help someone use the technology to provide a particular routine they have to go through in servicing an item off-site. Oops. Go back one. And so that's a bit there on the augmented and mixed reality. Any questions or sort of concepts there that you didn't quite get, you'd like a quick answer for? No? Great.
Actually, Bruce, since no one else is going to ask, the one that you're saying that you use with the tablets and the smartphones being, I guess, a cheaper option you'd mentioned for small businesses, is it just a matter of once you've got that smartphone or that iPad or whatever, downloading an app and off you go? Is that how simple it is?
Yes, yeah. Oh, it's simple. There's obviously some, for the last example where there was some instructions to service a particular item that the business is supplying a premise, there'll be some 3D modelling that needs to be built into that app. But for that very simple process of providing the expert, assistance, remote assistance, yeah, it's as simple as subscribing to the app and installing it.
Okay.
So very, very accessible.
And those 3D models that you mentioned that would have to be built, is that something that as a client you would go to the app people and say, hey, I need this built, can you step me through it? Or how does that process work?
The apps provide a building tool to third-party 3D augmented reality agencies to use. So that company Scope, for example, they're a global company. They're one of the leaders in providing this technology. For large enterprise corporations, they might have some direct work that they'll do directly to customise for a large enterprise. But generally what's happening now, and why I'm talking to small and medium-sized businesses about this, they've really designed these technologies for smaller to medium-sized businesses to utilise, but they rely upon someone in the local market to consult with business to design what information needs to be, what models need to be created, and then they've got a building tool that they supply for their app, and then you've got basically an app for you that you download that's got your designs of your products already built into them.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, so now we've obviously looked at how the product's designed, the logistics of getting it distributed and assembled, but there's also now using these technologies in the sales process. Now this is an example. This one doesn't actually have any sound, but just visually, this is a Hisense app, and the objective is you can find a product in the app or from their website, and then look at it in context of which you're going to use that. And again, coming back to this idea of information provided in context helps a customer make a better and quicker decision. And this just shows you a few examples of how a TV can be selected, but then also how you measure up spaces for a fridge or any other sort of furniture. Okay, so we've seen there, that's an augmented app for the sale of retail products. That was actually done in Melbourne. There's a company that develops that app. So similar to the service apps, the company, your business, the retailer or a distributor, basically only supplying products, has the 3D models made of their products, and then they use an app that then displays those products. And different apps will have different functionality. The slight functionality different between the hardware. So as long as your customer has a mobile phone or a tablet, a reasonably late one, they can use this sort of technology. Again, saving a lot of time on things like that example of measuring up the fridge, where I don't need to go out with a tape measure, then come back to the website and then look at all the little details on each of the fridges. All I do is measure up the space with my mobile phone, and it automatically shows me the fridges that will fit. Again, seeing the product in the context of which it's going to be used helps the customer make a quicker decision and more confidence in making that decision as well.
Bruce?
Yep.
Bruce, so in that context there, where is the information about the product coming in? So you've got your app to measure up the space. You're then saying, search for fridges that will fit this space. Now, is that the selection of those fridges, is that based on what is input into the app in the first place, or is it going on a Google search and finding out from current products?
I think that's built for Hisense themselves.
Right.
And in the case if it was a retailer, the retailer would have just their products within that database of multiple products, obviously. So there's two ways of finding the product. You could be looking on their mobile website, for example, of a retailer, and it'll have view this product at home. And you click on the link. So the product appears like it would in a normal e-commerce shopping cart, but as soon as you click the view at home, it projects then out into the space in front of you. So you can see it in its actual size, and you can walk around it in that space and see what it looks like, both for physical things that might be, say, on the floor or a picture on the wall, or we'll see a couple more examples here. But again, seeing the product in its context of which it's going to be used really gives the customer confidence it's the right product. this is an example how a B2B company would use the same sort of technology. A lot more choices to be made for, in this case, there are large outdoor furniture provided to things like councils. So their app enables the company to on-site design some outdoor seating in the actual place it's going to appear, and look at it in the context of where it's going to be at that picnic ground or kids' playground. But you'll see the process here.
Hi, I'm Tiffany and this is Tirza, and we're going to show you how to use our new augmented reality app, Build Aria. So the first thing is to take your iPhone or iPad for iPhone versions later than 6 and download Build Aria from the App Store. Then open it up and go to Build My Aria. Now you can choose a starting configuration. You can go for a 1, 2 or 3 seater bench or seat, or you can use one of our pre-configured ideas. I'm going to start with the 2-seater bench. So a tutorial will flash up to show you how to configure your Aria. So continue. So I've got my 2-seater. I'm going to add a PowerMe table, charging table unit, and then a second 2-seater. Then I'm going to put in a 90-degree connector panel, and then a 2-seater bench. And to rotate, you use your second finger or your thumb, like so. So now I'm going to mix up the colors. Click your buttons. I'm going to choose Lycra Strip, apply. If you want just one of these seats to be in a different color, click on it. And then I'm going to change it to brilliant yellow. Select Options, Apply button, finish to selected piece only. Apply. You can also change the color of the PowerMe units to one of our Textura powder-coated finishes. I'm going to keep it on Deep Ocean. Apply. And you can change the frame to one of your preferred Textura colors. I'm going to go for Ironstone. So when you're happy with your configuration, you can press View in AR. And now the tutorial is going to flash up. So use 1 finger to move your Aria, 2 fingers again to rotate, and then customize the arms and the legs with this icon. Scan the floor using a circular motion, and there's the Aria. 1 finger to move around, and then 2 fingers to rotate. Change the arms and legs. I'm going to select some arms, and you can choose from the pedestal or the splay leg, or a combination of both. I'm going to choose the pedestal. So when you're happy, you can use the camera button to take a photo and share. Or if you'd like to get a list of the parts and also the configuration code, you can press this envelope button, save configuration, and it will send you the code and the parts. And that's how to configure your Aria.
Okay, so there we saw a company supplying a huge range of choice, be able to use the app to enable the customer to design something bespoke for the space that they have, and then look at that item in the space that it's going to sit. And then that would enable also the opportunity to just purchase or order the product directly once that design's been finished. So saving a huge amount of time in rendering normal drawings and going backwards and forwards with the client. The beauty of this, as this is a stepping stone from where we've been with e-commerce, a lot of companies have already got the databases and their products already within a website. The next step is to create the 3D renders of the products so that they can be displayed in the augmented reality format.
Hi, I'm Tiff.
Now here's an example, again, using fashion as an example. Things like fashion and cosmetics are increasingly being used in this format. This example is showing a wedding dress designer being able to bring, have a your own fashion show in your own home, giving you significant engagement with the product. So you'll see it's fairly immersive.
Introducing Suzanne Harwood Virtual View. Experience couture bridal wear in your home. Try Suzanne Harwood dresses and gowns in augmented reality. Take photos and videos of your favourite dresses. Ask a question or book a showroom appointment. See outfit information and purchase online. Explore different outfits and find the perfect dress. Download Suzanne Harwood Virtual View now.
Okay, so that was another example of the augmented reality. In the fashion area, you can also there's some apps that allow you to scan your own body. That was obviously using a model in that one, trying on all the different dresses and projecting it out in front of you. One of the differences between, say, a very good augmented reality experience is a lot of the lighting coming into it. So if the person's turning in that dress, the lighting will reflect that. So you get a very realistic view of what that would look like if, you know, like your own private fashion show, basically as if you're there in person. There is the ability to scan your own body and have those clothes put onto you, and there's some apps that actually do that as well. The next example is for businesses that sell spaces. So whether it be a real estate agent or property developer, this doesn't have any sound to it. It's just showing the quality of the image you can get at the moment. So this is an off-the-plan design, but this is essentially could also be a wedding venue or a hospitality location, or it could be a industrial sort of designer who's doing internal shop fit outs. So the ability to show this sort of level of quality of walkthrough before in a pre-purchase situation. Okay, so you can sort of see there that was photographically real, but it was a full rendered 3D environment for a off-the-plan type building. Some of the other applications for this too is to give clients confidence in your ability to deliver a service, especially in these times of COVID where it might be difficult to travel. So at the moment we can't travel between Brisbane and Melbourne, trying to win new business, to give them a virtual tour of a factory or a retail outlet or a wedding venue in virtual reality, to give them the sense of space and what the environment feels like, is a very powerful way to give a customer confidence in the product that you're delivering. And so we've now seen some examples of how it's used in sales and marketing of the virtual reality and the augmented reality. And then the other part of it is the growing area of using it for market research, both at the start of the design phase. So you're able to take a 3D model of something that's been made and put that in front of a customer and get immediate feedback on that. And there's also, in this example here, is from a university in the US and a PhD researcher researching the technology around providing market research to improve the layout of a supermarket or a retail outlet.
So my thesis tries to answer the question whether people or participants in a virtual simulated store really behave the way they would behave in a real store. And we found that VR headsets led to higher immersion, higher telepresence, it is called. We can observe what people are doing in-store, so we can observe in-store shopper behavior, how people interacted with the product. We can generate heat maps and see where people spend the most of the time in the store. Yeah, now I'm in the virtual environment, in the virtual simulated store. And what participants normally do is they can pick up the shopping basket and then start with their shopping. So if I go, for example, in this middle aisle here, that's the crackers and muesli bar aisle. I can just pick up products, can rotate them to check the back of the pack, and put them in the shopping basket. I think that virtual reality will become a major methodology in market research. Some companies have already indicated that they are interested in working with us to use the software for changes, for example, in product package design or in retail store layouts. And from the business side, our big goal now is to basically work with clients to apply this technology, give it some field testing, and also to attract some revenue so that we can invest more into the development and improve the software more.
So that video, there's a few years old now, but so it's come a little way since then. But the main things there is the latest headsets that are coming out in the consumer level pricing are starting to introduce things like eye tracking and a lot more body language reading. So someone who's doing some market analysis of how consumers are engaging with their product are getting a lot more information than they've ever had before. And that feeds back into the design of the product and also to the customer satisfaction. Okay, any questions on the sales and marketing section there? No? Good, we'll move on. All right, so learning development is a significant area of growth for both augmented reality and virtual reality. The augmented reality is something that's for learning development, really in those services of being able to learn on the job and being able to reference through the headset or via an expert on another location to learn as you're actually doing the job. In virtual reality, you're able to design scenarios that provide a consistency of training for everybody, which provides significant equity for all your staff. I think many of us have had that experience where we've started a new job or had staff that started a new job and one person's got some initial good training and orientation about the equipment, and then the next person has got a different level of training and experience. So that's relatively, it's not very equitable when you think about it in regard to their long-term prospects in your business. So virtual reality to be able to provide the training on a consistent level to everybody and have that measured the same creates great efficiencies and satisfaction. While there's lots of research that's gone into how effective virtual reality is for training purposes, the main consistency is people tend to learn a lot quicker and they retain the information a lot longer. There's significant benefits in not having, generally some of your best staff are engaged in the training process or guiding a new employee on orientation of where things are or how to use a piece of equipment. Once you design your VR training program, they can go and stand over in a corner somewhere and repetitively do that training until they get it right. And the beauty of it is again, done in context where we're creating a real world scenarios where things happen, good or bad, that you wouldn't want to happen in real life. But because something bad happened in the virtual reality experience, they tend to remember that and it stays with them in the workplace. And I'll show you a few examples, not so much, we won't go into the detail of them, but there's two main methods of creating virtual reality scenarios. One is using 3D modelling, such as you saw with the walkthrough of that apartment, using those 3D models and creating scenarios within those models. While you can create any circumstance at all that happens within that, they take a bit longer. They're a bit higher cost to do. But what for small to medium-sized businesses, 360 video is very effective and very realistic. So camera systems over the last few years have come down in price, that you are able to use a 360 video camera. And there's some publishing platforms that enable instructional designers to design training programs, both that are training and both that are orientation based, that are cost effective to deliver, that have been proven to show significant benefits. So the two models are 360 video, using that as the core content creation tool that gives a realistic view of your own workspace, or 3D models that creates anything, explosions, other things like that, that are a bit more difficult to create in 360 video. Here's some examples here. Surgical training is a leading area they're using for virtual reality. And this is some research with Oculus, which is Facebook's owned VR headset. The Canadian Shoulder and Elbow Society of Canada trained their senior surgeons using virtual reality, and had the participants learn 570% faster than they did in their traditional methods. Nestle is saving significant dollars in training their field sales staff for their pet care division by reducing the cost of providing that training. And they're able to provide the collaborative workspaces that we saw at the very start, the virtual factory tours, giving their customers access to the factory without necessarily having to travel to the factory, and providing training in virtual simulated environments around things like the product placements, as we saw in that earlier market research video. Empathy training is a huge area for this, how to deal with people, both from managers learning how to deal with their staff, and also with staff dealing with customers. So this example here was with Hilton's used empathy training for their 6,000 properties in 117 countries, and reduced training times to get a similar outcome down to 20 minutes from 4 hours. So when you're dealing with large numbers of employees, that's quite significant. But then also too, if you're a manager in a small company, and even if you're saving yourself over the course of, you know, a year, a number of days worth of instructions, it's quite valuable even to a small business to save, you know, a few hours here and there on a ad hoc basis throughout the year. Walmart's the largest employer in the world so far that's integrated virtual reality training as part of their standard learning and development process. And they've replaced 45-minute learning modules down to 3 to 5 minutes, and getting an overall increased pass rate of their trainees by 15% as well. So they're making massive savings there. And I think part of it too is the staff enjoy it more. It's very engaging. When you use these training programs, the part of the process is actually making it enjoyable to use. And one of the main differences that we see here through a traditional workplace training, where they're using online e-learning type scenarios, people are often learning using those at home or in the workplace. And when you're looking at a 2D screen, there's lots of other distractions around you when you're doing it. But when you put a VR headset on, you're solely 100% focused on what's in front of you and where you are. It's again, the context is very much you're learning there in that environment. There's nothing else there to distract you during that process. That's part of the efficiency gain, is the elimination of all distractions during the training process. That really doesn't exist in a lot of other environments. In the area of the empathy training, obviously that's a major thing within lots of organisations now, and how people deal with people from different cultures, how people, as a manager, learn the skills to be empathetic towards their staff with different situations. How that's done a lot at the moment is a company will bring in a scenario actors into a situation, and some staff will be trained in with actors. Now that works very effectively, but it's also very inconsistent, because one staff member one day could have one particular actor and another actor another day. And so depending upon how engaging that process is, again, it's the equity across staff getting the same experience, and then also be able to track everything that happens within that to get some real insights out of the training program. Other examples in the farming area, Santos, which there's Australia's largest grower of mushrooms, worked with Melbourne Polytechnic and a local VR developer here in Melbourne. They had the problem where whenever they brought people in to pick the mushrooms, again, either backpackers or new immigrants to Australia that may not have good English language capability, there's a long learning curve of how to pick the right size mushroom. And so the VR development company, in partnership with the Melbourne Polytechnic, designed this mushroom picking VR experience. There was a lot of wastage in the process. Whenever they pick the wrong size mushroom, it's obviously then wasted. So they're able, and normally took about a 6-week program to get up to being competent and reliable at picking the right size mushrooms. And so with this program, they've been able to essentially eliminate all the waste that would have gone into training people, whereas they can be trained in virtual reality off to the side, and experienced pickers are left to do the work and not waste any of the mushrooms. In the area of health and safety and maintenance, KLM Airlines are using 360 video training. They had a situation where they had a lot of their staff, their senior staff, spending a lot of time with junior staff, just following them along, making sure that they're being trained on the job to do all the right processes. Now they've moved to this video 360 training, similar to the same technology as what Walmart had. Again, that was video training as well, to run 60 programs of different scenarios to train their staff that service the jets as they need their servicing during the training program. Another one, OH&S, Olam Farms, which are up on the Murray River, in partnership with one of the Northern Taiths and another VR developer here in Melbourne, designed a video training scenario to change behaviour of dangerous behaviour that was occurring in the workplace. Again, lots of backpackers on sort of semi-holiday situation. Often were speeding in the farm equipment, using their mobile phones, and drinking and drug taking. What they did is they built scenarios on the actual farms in the real place where accidents occurred, and people got to experience the accidents. And when you're in virtual reality experiencing an accident and all of a sudden it shocks you, it's something that you remember. So that's had a good outcomes in improving staff behaviour in that farm environment. Another example is an industry body, CPA Australia, as part of their introduction to accounting and promoting their own brand and their professionalism, to design this program that basically puts accounting students in control of a factory. And I've actually used this program. I did pretty well at it, even though I'm not an accountant. that you make some modifications to the spreadsheet visually, and you can see the actual visually what then happens in the factory and what the outcomes are from those changes at the spreadsheet level. And it's a very effective way of communicating what would normally be a very bland and boring spreadsheet, but into something which is very engaging and very effective in communicating the outcomes that the CPA Australia wanted. The next thing, in addition to sort of training and staff, is their wellness. There's a growing range of research going into how virtual reality can help modify mood. Years ago, when I was in the big city corporate environment, I always walked down the bottom of the steps and there'd be 30 or 40 people standing down there with cigarettes, having a cigarette break, just to calm themselves down or relax a bit, or myself going to have a coffee. Alternatively, there's now these virtual reality platforms coming out. This one's Liminal. They're again based in Melbourne. They've designed a series of VR experiences, and the choose the feeling is a part of the navigation you see when you've got the headset on, and you can choose either to be calm, energy, pain relief, or awe. And when you click on that, you can choose a couple of experiences. They're only short experiences, only a few minutes, but then the outcomes can be managed on the measuring the outcomes. So as a company, you can look across all your employees that have been using these headsets or these programs, and seeing that they've moved from a general satisfaction or relieving anxiety in the workplace or other sort of mental health issues in a healthy way, and have the company be able to see what the improvements are or that sort of thing. So I actually used this. I had surgery last year for some that had me in the hospital overnight. I just thought I'd give this a go, and using the pain relief, I was amazed that the pain relief program certainly did, though my surgery wasn't major. It certainly, I didn't feel I needed any sort of medication when the doctors had given me some. So it certainly did help at the point that would have been the most painful. Okay, so that's it for the presentation there. So any questions there?
Bruce, from a learning and development point of view, are most of the applications at the moment where people have a program and they're using some element from VR or 360 to supplement an activity within that program, or are there a lot of, other than health and safety, which I know is a whole program, but are there others, say in leadership programs, are there any available which are off-the-shelf leadership VR programs?
Not that I've seen in that. One of the companies that I work with, which is Warp, which they provide the service to KLM Airlines, they are actually looking at a store. Sorry, it's my sorry about that. They're developing a store where their customers, companies will be able to then distribute those. Where they have provided is, in the health and safety is where I've seen that the most, where you can actually buy a VR program that trains people in CPR or trains people in fire, putting out fires. And there's a company in Melbourne that's distributed their product around Australia. Sorry, I should turn that off. So it's a developing area, because I think it's what's happened in the last 2 years. This 2 years ago, this sort of content creation was very expensive, and it was done at a corporate, very high-end corporate. So that Walmart was paying, I believe, $50,000 to do one of those scenarios, and they made it custom made for them. Whereas Warp, for example, which is the platform that KLM is using, the process, they have to develop a platform so someone with instructional education knowledge and some video production skills is able to, at a similar cost to creating a 2D video and a 2D learning program, can develop a VR program. So it's only really now that we're seeing the ability to create that content. So there's actually an opportunity, which I've seen in the marketplace, for companies that want to invest in some training programs for their industry to produce them and then license them out through different platforms. So it's definitely an opportunity that's probably emerging in the marketplace where people with particular industry knowledge. You've also got the cultural elements too. Things that happen in Melbourne as far as certain training may not be suitable, don't really connect with people. It's making sure that the cultural way people communicate in one country is a little bit different in our country, and so at the moment it's getting to the point where the cost of production is companies are just investing in their own personal training programs, and that gives them a competitive advantage as well, because it's their unique, it's their brand voice they're putting into the training programs, how they want their customers to speak, their staff to speak to their customers. And part of the uniqueness of very successful companies is how they train their staff as well.
So Bruce, are you in Veality, are you designing programs, or are you coming out to an SME business, identifying an opportunity of where it could be used, and then buying off the shelf or selling off the shelf programs or apps?
Yeah, well, I would come out to the business. I work as, I'm technology agnostic, and so I work with the business on identifying its commercial needs and where we can use the technology to deliver a benefit to that business, and maybe choose the most likely one. It might be training, but it could be the remote servicing or whatever it might be, and then take that to them and then document down the needs of that business or the scope of what's required. So then then take that to the market to get a quote on what needs to be done, and then project manage that process through. So I'm like an agency on behalf of the company, whereas the other method at the moment is to go to just a web developer and say, look, I want to do some training, but then they'll only have, not a web developer, sorry, a VR development agency. They'll only be able to provide you with the platforms of which they use and the skill set which they have in-house. So I'm sort of the person you go to before you get to there, and hopefully match up the need with both on the investment level and also what the objectives are to the capability of a service provider to deliver on that.
So from your business, in your business, what is the most common applications you're finding people are interested in engaging you for?
Well, prior to it's changing a little bit now, I think, with COVID, because the big change now is possibly a lot more small businesses have their customer base. They got a lot more technically literate very quickly, and it's opening up an opportunity, and that's sort of why I'm now presenting these at this level. But before COVID, I was working, I dealt a fair bit with some schools in the education sector in really educating people, and the same thing applies no matter what it is. It's really, it's an education platform providing information in context, so whether people are learning about your product or they're learning how not to get injured in the workplace as staff members or how to treat people better. The technology is fairly universally across the business, and it's being expanded, but prior to now I was doing some consulting in the education sector more so, but I'm now seeing the opportunity with both the cost of the hardware and the cost of the software is coming down to make it more cost effective too.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions for Bruce about what his business does or the technology itself, or any clarification on points made?
Well, I think we're going to send out this presentation to people. I'll offer something to the membership as well. around coming out to a business and providing you some insights into you've got to try some of the technology. Because looking at this information on a 2D screen is very different to actually putting it on. You only really experience it and understand the power of it when you actually put it on and you're using a professional level business purpose VR experience or augmented reality experience. But happy to, anyone wants to reach out to me after this as well and got a particular thing, just to give them no obligation conversation too about what they might be able to use the technology for.
Great. Well, I think we'll wrap it up then. So as Bruce said, a copy of today's presentation will be emailed out to everyone on Monday, along with a very, very short survey link. If everyone could please fill that out, that helps the chamber find out what works, what doesn't work, so we can develop new content all the time. Now, especially in Victoria, with us don't know what's happening with COVID, but we're certainly looking at, you know, keeping a online presence even past. Thank you to Bruce from Veality for co-hosting today, and thank you for all for joining us. If you would like to watch this presentation again at any time, it is being uploaded onto our YouTube channel. I've put the Dandy Chambers Facebook page in the chat. If anyone wants to grab that, just give us a like and you'll be able to go into our YouTube channel from there. So thank you all and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Tamara, and thank you, Bruce.
Thank you all. Bye.